In the heart of Lagos, where the streets never slept and luxury had a price, stood the most famous nail salon in the city, Skylar's Luxe Nails. It wasn't just a salon. It was an empire. The shop stood tall in the most expensive part of town, painted in rich gold and black, with large glass windows that revealed rows of elegant velvet chairs and diamond-studded mirrors. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, reflecting the glow of the golden lights, making the entire place sparkle like a palace. But what truly made Skylar's Luxe Nails special was Skylar herself. She was the queen of beauty. Tall, graceful, and flawless, Skylar had caramel brown skin that glowed like the sun, full lips painted a bold red, and long black hair that flowed down her back like silk. She was always dressed in the finest designer outfits, her jewelry shining as brightly as the rings on the fingers she carefully designed nails for. She had every color of nail polished, some shades so rare, no other nail tech had them. Her press-on nails were like artworks, long, elegant, and designed in ways nobody could recreate. Girls from all over Lagos, rich daughters of politicians, celebrities, businesswomen, flocked to her studio. They didn't care how expensive it was. They didn't care that sometimes, after getting their nails done, they felt strangely weak for a few days. All they cared about was walking out of that salon with their nails looking perfect. And in Lagos, perfection was power. Chloe stood outside Skylar's Luxe Nails, gripping the strap of her bag tightly. She had saved up every naira she had to train under Skylar. As a nail technician herself, Chloe knew she was good. But Skylar was on another level. If she could learn from the best, she could finally grow her business and become just as successful. Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside. The moment she crossed the threshold, a chill ran down her spine. The shop was warm and smelled like expensive perfumes and nail polish, but something about the air felt heavy. Like she had walked into a place where she didn't belong. Chloe shook off the feeling and walked up to the front desk. "Good morning," she greeted the receptionist, a young woman with perfectly manicured nails. "I'm Chloe. I paid for the training session with Miss Skylar." The woman smiled and stood up. "Oh, yes. Skylar has been expecting you. Please, follow me." Chloe nodded and followed her through the elegant space, past rows of women getting their nails done, past the grand mirrors, until she saw her. Skylar. The woman who was more famous than some celebrities. Skylar sat at her private station, dressed in a silk champagne-colored dress, her long, sharp nails tapping lightly on the glass table in front of her. When she looked up, her dark, piercing eyes met Chloe's. For a moment, Chloe felt like those eyes could see through her. Then, Skylar smiled. It was perfect. Warm, welcoming, almost hypnotic. "You must be Chloe," she said in a voice smooth like honey. Chloe forced herself to smile back. "Yes. I'm honored to be here." Skylar tilted her head slightly, eyes flickering over Chloe like she was studying her. Skylar felt the energy in the room change as Chloe walked in. She felt different. She had seen lots of women come and go, but none gave her this much chills. Then, she spoke. "I won't be the one training you today," Skylar said smoothly. "My assistant, Lillian, will take care of you." Chloe frowned slightly. "Oh, I thought." Skylar waved a perfectly manicured hand. "I'm terribly busy with my VIP clients today. But don't worry, you'll learn just as much from Lillian." Chloe hesitated but didn't want to argue. Instead, she simply nodded. "All right." As she walked away with Lillian, she couldn't shake the feeling that Skylar was watching her. And when she stepped out of the shop that evening, she felt like she had been released from something. Like a weight had lifted from her shoulders. She took a deep breath. Why did it feel so hard to breathe in there? That night, Chloe prayed. She wasn't sure why, but something about Skylar's Luxe Nails didn't sit right with her. She had been in many salons before, but none had ever made her feel so uneasy. Before leaving her house the next morning, she prayed again. And when she stepped into the studio, she whispered another small prayer under her breath. That was when she noticed something strange. Skylar had always been distant the day before, but today, she was avoiding Chloe completely. She stayed on the other side of the salon, only looking in Chloe's direction when she thought Chloe wasn't paying attention. And every time Chloe prayed silently, Skylar's face would tighten just a little. After days of being ignored, Chloe finally had enough. One evening, as the studio was closing, she walked straight up to Skylar's station. "Excuse me, Miss Skylar," she said politely. Skylar looked up, her smile polished but unreadable. "Yes, dear." Chloe took a breath. "Please, I paid a lot of money to learn from you, not just your assistants." A flicker of something cold passed over Skylar's face. Then, as if snapping back into place, she smiled. "Of course," she said. "My apologies. We'll start tomorrow." The next day, as Chloe sat beside her, her heart pounded. She had finally gotten Skylar's attention. Skylar handed Chloe a brush and a set of press-on nails. "Show me what you've got," she said smoothly. Chloe exhaled and got to work. She had done this 1,000 times. Her hands moved quickly, carefully shaping, painting, and designing the nails. But when she lifted her brush, it was a mess. The colors were wrong. The design looked like something done by a child. Chloe's stomach dropped. This didn't make sense. She tried again. And again. Every single time, she failed. She could feel Skylar watching her, smiling too perfectly. "It takes practice," Skylar said sweetly. But Chloe knew something was wrong. That night, she went home and used her own set of products. And this time, the nails came out flawless. Her hands hadn't lost their skill. It was the studio. Chloe's mind raced. At home, her nails were perfect. In the studio, they were a disaster. Something wasn't right. Unknown to her, Skylar's students never left the studio because their nails kept turning out bad. They kept paying every month until they fell into debt, and then they had to work for her to pay it off. They were all under her spell. The next day, she arrived at the studio early. As usual, Skylar barely acknowledged her. Instead, she had her assistant hand Chloe a new set of special products to use. Chloe accepted them but secretly planned to test her own products. Just then, the studio door swung open, and a young woman walked in. "Chloe," the lady smiled. It was Kate, an old school friend. "I had no idea you were training here." Kate continued. "I've been dying to get my nails done by Skylar, but you know, money." She laughed. A thought formed in Chloe's mind. "Kate," she said, lowering her voice. "Would you like to be my model for today? Free of charge." Kate's face lit up. "Really?" "Of course." Chloe turned to Skylar. "I hope you don't mind." Skylar's smile faltered for the briefest second. Then, she laughed lightly. "Not at all. Go ahead." As Chloe set up, she whispered a prayer over her tools. She painted and shaped Kate's nails carefully, her hands moving with confidence. And when she was done, the nails were stunning. Even Skylar's assistants gasped. No one had ever made a set that perfect in the studio. Kate admired her nails, thrilled. "These are gorgeous, Chloe. I've never seen anything like this." But Skylar. She was stiff. Her hands twitched slightly, her sharp nails clicking against the glass table. Then she stood up abruptly. "That's enough for today," she said. "Kate, you may leave." Kate blinked, confused. "Oh, okay. Thanks, Chloe." She waved and left. Chloe, on the other hand, felt a chill. Why had Skylar reacted that way? And why was she suddenly so tense? That night, Kate called Chloe, her voice shaking. "Chloe. I had the worst nightmare," she whispered. Chloe sat up in bed. "What happened?" I saw an old woman in a black hood chasing me. She kept screaming at me to return something I stole." Chloe's blood ran cold. "Kate, listen to me. You need to pray. Right now. Kate agreed, and they prayed together. But deep inside, Chloe knew. Something dark was connected to Skylar's luck nails. And she had just stepped into its trap. The next day, Chloe returned to the studio, her heart heavy. As she walked in, Skylar was waiting. With a forced smile. "Chloe," she said sweetly. "Today, I want you to use my special set of tools. They will help improve your designs." Chloe hesitated. But she obeyed. She picked up the brush and got to work. And once again, the nails came out horrible. Chloe's hands shook. This wasn't her. She turned to Skylar, frustrated. "Miss Skylar, why is it that whenever I use your products here, my work turns out terrible? But when I use my products at home, I create flawless designs." Skylar's face hardened. "I don't know what you're talking about." Chloe took a deep breath. Then, she did something bold. Right in front of everyone. She took Skylar's own set of products and painted her own nails. Skylar's eyes widened. And when Chloe lifted her hands, the nails were perfect. For the first time, a student had created flawless nails inside Skylar's studio. The assistants and clients gasped in shock. "But Skylar," she screamed. Her voice turned into a horrible, inhuman sound. Her hands shook violently, and her long, sharp nails began to shrink. Her skin wrinkled. Her beautiful, youthful face melted away, revealing an old woman with gray hair and dark, sunken eyes. The entire studio froze. Skylar fell to the ground, weak and shaking. "What have you done, you stupid girl?" Skylar wailed. Chloe stood her ground. She began to pray, loudly, boldly. "Jesus, any evil in this place, be exposed." Skylar let out a horrible, piercing wail. Her body convulsed. And then, in a weak, broken voice, she whispered, I wanted to be rich and beautiful forever." The entire room was silent. Skylar's voice trembled. "I paid with my youth. Instead of aging, I had to drain the youth of my clients. The more they wore my nails, the more their life force was stolen." People gasped in horror. Chloe's heart pounded. The rumors were true. Skylar's nails had been draining the lives of her customers, slowly, silently, until they died. But now her spell was broken. Before anyone could call the police, Skylar let out one last breath. And collapsed, lifeless. The once glorious Skylar's luck nails was finished. After Skylar's death, news spread like wildfire. People stopped getting their nails done. Many nail technicians lost their businesses, as women became afraid to trust any salon again. Chloe, shaken by the experience, decided to leave the nail business forever. Instead, she pursued another skill, one that was pure and free from darkness. And with God's guidance, she found success. Skylar's studio remained abandoned. No one dared to reopen it. Because some say, at night, if you walk past the old, empty salon, you can still hear Skylar's voice, whispering for one last client. But nobody ever enters. The moral lesson in this story are: Skylar sought riches in the wrong way and paid the price. Prayers always expose evil. Chloe's faith protected her and revealed the dark truth. Just because something looks glamorous doesn't mean it's pure. Beware of places that make you feel uneasy. Sometimes, your spirit warns you before your mind understands.